I've always questioned people who used a pickup truck as a daily driver, and now I'm one of them. At the risk of alienating some 15% of American drivers, let me restate my notion that daily driving a pickup truck is a silly idea, and yet here I am, doing exactly that in our long-term 2023 Nissan Frontier SV. My hope was that the Nissan's tweener size would make a good compromise between capability and comfort. So how's that working out so far? As I mentioned in the Frontier's arrival story, my family owns a full-size pickup for equine chores, but we've always had a car or SUV as a daily driver. Why not commute in our Chevy C2500? Well, because it's uncomfortable, difficult to park, and gets lousy gas mileage. I was eager to see how the Frontier would address my complaints, or if it even could. Every time I drive a pickup, especially a rough-riding heavy-duty model like my Chevy, I wonder why people would do this to themselves. I had feared the same situation in the Frontier. Its capacities: 1,160 pounds payload, 6,260 pounds towing for our long wheelbase SV model, while obviously lower than an HD truck, are impressive for its size, and I figure the engineering envelope between capacity and compliance is narrow. This isn't a full-size truck, where the manufacturer can offer a lighter-duty version better suited for commuting. The Frontier's suspension is most definitely firmer than most of the cars and SUVs I drive, but there's some good suspension tuning here. While the ride is busy, the Frontier's suspension rounds off the edges of the bumps. Aside from a resonance on some sectional freeway pavement, a problem I've experienced in other pickups, it's far from objectionable, even for someone like me, who loves the rolling on glass sensation of an old Lincoln. Interestingly, hauling loads in the Frontier doesn't seem to affect ride quality. Our heaviest haul so far has been 900 pounds in the bed. That's 8 bales of hay and 2 bags of feed, with 2 well-fed adults and a couple of big dogs in the cab plus half a tank of gas. The truck rode as if it was lightly loaded, and I was surprised, and a bit embarrassed, to be honest, when I got home, crunched the numbers, and realized that we had exceeded the Frontier's GVWR by about 120 pounds. Guess we should have left the dogs home. From the way the Frontier's suspension and 310 horsepower V6 handled the weight, I never would have guessed the truck was at, well, okay, I admit it, slightly over its load limit. It takes more than a good suspension to make a comfortable car, and the Frontier has other advantages. I've always thought Nissan's zero-gravity seats were a marketing gimmick, but boy, have I come to appreciate them. Ergonomics are good, except for a few oddly located buttons by the driver's left knee I rarely use. And the stereo is fantastic. I thought I'd miss out by not opting for the Fender system, but the stock unit is clear and crisp and such a low-frequency overachiever that I usually keep the bass booster function switched off. So far, nearly everyone who has driven the Frontier has commented on the heavy steering. I thought it'd give me achy arms, but the truth is that, much as I prefer light steering, I rarely notice its weight thus far. Nor do I miss lane centering like I thought I would. The Frontier tracks nicely and is good on center field, so it's not fatiguing to steer on long trips. The Frontier's adaptive cruise works nicely, and it's a full stop system. Other manufacturers cut rate adaptive cruise systems cut out below 20 miles per hour, useless for stop and go traffic. The Frontier's cruise does cancel a few seconds after bringing the truck to a halt. I need to step on the brake and re-engage it when traffic starts moving, but I can deal. That said, I do miss having a brake hold function, which keeps the vehicle stopped at lights without the need to step on the brake. During a trip up to the high desert, I took a detour through some of my favorite curvy roads. I kept my expectations low, and the Frontier shattered them. For a pickup truck, it really can do the two-step. The steering, though heavy, has a nice feel to it, body lean is minimal, and grip from the Michelin Primacy ties is surprisingly strong. Our test team measured it at 0.77 grams average on the skid pad, same as a Mazda CX-5 SUV and a Rivian R1T on street tires. The transmission, which can never seem to make up its mind on steep hills, does a better job finding and holding gears in performance driving. So, no, not miserable to drive. Not at all. What about parking? At 224 inches, the long wheelbase Frontier is just 2 inches shorter than a Suburban, so finding curbside spaces can be a challenge, though not an insurmountable one. Its 73-inch width is about the same as a Honda CR-V, so parking lots are no problem. It fits easily into stall spaces with plenty of room to open the doors. That was one of the advantages I was hoping for. When I drive the Chevy to the supermarket, I have to park in Timbuktu. Getting into those spots is a challenge, though. Our Frontier's turning circle is 46.5 feet, 2 feet wider than a long wheelbase Toyota Tacoma and 3 more than a Suburban. I can't count how many times I've swung too wide and had to back up and start again, much to Mrs. Gold's amusement. So, while the Frontier fits into more parking spaces than a full-size pickup, actually parking in them isn't any easier. As for fuel economy, we're averaging 17.1 miles per gallon. That's far behind the 23 or so mpg of our long-term Hyundai Santa Cruz, but the Cruz is a lighter weight vehicle that leads an SUV life. The Frontier has already towed a trailer, hauled 1.5 tons of feed, and slogged through hours of Los Angeles traffic, and it's a heck of a lot more efficient than the 10.9 mile per gallon Ram 2500 Power Wagon we ran in 2019. One of my biggest objections to daily driving a pickup is the lack of a trunk, but so far that hasn't been as much of an issue as I feared. For my first few weeks, I hauled all my cargo in the back seat, but more and more I find myself flinging groceries and suitcases into the bed. The truck's low ride height means even a short, 5 feet 6 inches, guy like me can reach them, though I do occasionally have to climb into the bed to retrieve an escaped soup can or two. The Frontier has actually forced me to adopt a more minimalist attitude towards my junk in the trunk mentality. The only things I regularly leave in the truck are my dog seat cover, cleaner and rags, for impromptu photo opportunities, and the bed rail tie-down cleats, which a veteran pickup driving friend advised me are easily stolen. All of which fit, just barely, in the storage compartments under the seats. One thing I do keep in the bed is a little plastic step stool. One of my frequent passengers is my 5 feet 2 inches 81-year-old aunt with a bum hip, and it's the easiest way to get her in and out of the Frontier. So do I still think daily driving a pickup truck is silly? When our editors assign me a car or an SUV for testing, I do marvel at the trunk space and comfort, but the Frontier is proving to be far easier to live with than I imagined, and, critically, a lot more convenient than my old Chevrolet. Whatever my objections were, it seems Nissan's engineers thought them through ahead of time.